Before Daenerys Stormborn, before King's Landing burned, before the fall of the Iron Throne, there was another war. A war not written by men, but carved in fire across the sky. The Dance of the Dragons. A time when brother turned against sister, queen against king, and the proud blood of House Targaryen devoured itself from within. Dragons filled the heavens like living comets, their roars shaking the bones of the earth. Cities burned, castles fell, and the sky turned black with smoke and wings. It was the war that changed everything. The war that ended the age of dragons. Tonight, we return to that forgotten chapter of fire and sorrow. We remember the queen who claimed her birthright, and the king who refused to surrender. We remember the riders, the monsters, the betrayals, and the final breath of a world built on flame. This is the story of a family consumed by its own power. This is the story of crowns made of bone and ash. This is the dance of the dragons. Long before dragons darkened the sky, long before steel met scale in the final dance, the roots of the war were already growing. They began not with fire, but with a crown. King Viserys, the first Targaryen, ruled a peaceful realm, gentle in heart, blind to the storms gathering in his own house. In the candlelit halls of the Red Keep, he made a choice that would shatter the world. He named his daughter Rhaenyra, heir to the Iron Throne. It was a bold decree, the first time in the history of Westeros that a woman was promised the crown. Lords bent the knee, but some bent only in ceremony. Behind the smiles, behind the toasts, whispers began to slither through the shadows. A woman cannot rule the Seven Kingdoms, and in those whispers, the seeds of hatred found soil. At Viserys' side stood his brother, Daemon Targaryen, fierce, unpredictable, beloved by some, feared by all. He believed the throne should have been his. When Rhaenyra was named heir, Daemon's smile faded. The realm felt the tremor of his anger, a quiet threat that simmered beneath his silver hair. Yet the greatest threat to Rhaenyra came not from Daemon, but from the woman she once called sister, Alicent Hightower, the queen, the second wife of Viserys, and mother to a son, Aegon, a son who, in the eyes of many, held a far stronger claim than any daughter could. At feasts, the court smiled. At tournaments, the knights cheered. But behind the tapestries, behind the polished marble walls, alliances tightened like nooses, and friendships soured like spoiled wine. Two women, once close as sisters, now walked separate paths. Rhaenyra, the chosen heir. Alicent, the mother of a king in waiting. The realm did not know it yet, but the crown had already chosen sides. And in the silence of the Red Keep, beneath the dragon skulls that lined the throne room, fate sharpened its teeth. The war had not begun. but its first breath had already been drawn. Before the war carved their names into history, Rhaenyra Targaryen and Alicent Hightower were simply two girls in the Red Keep. They read together in the gardens, shared secrets beneath the weirwood tree, and wandered the echoing halls, dreaming of a future untouched by crowns and duty. Rhaenyra, the king's beloved daughter, wild, curious, bold as a dragon's flame. Alicent, the daughter of the hand, gentle, careful, shaped by duty from her earliest breath. Their bond was real, a rare, innocent warmth in a court filled with sharp smiles and sharpened steel. But the Red Keep is a place where innocence does not survive. When Alicent was married to King Viserys, the first fracture split their friendship. Rhaenyra felt betrayed. She saw not a choice, but a replacement. And Alicent, now queen, now mother, carried new weight on her shoulders. Her heart longed for the friend she had lost. Yet her duty bound her to her children, to the Hightower name, to her father's ambitions. Whispered in the shadows, the court watched them drift apart, like two stars pulled by different tides. At feasts, they sat far from each other. At council, they spoke through others. In the halls, their eyes met only briefly, enough to remember what once was and what could never be again. Rhaenyra's sons grew strong. Alicent's sons grew restless, and the whispers grew louder. Which blood is purer? Which heir is true? Which mother will the realm follow? In the sept, Alicent prayed for peace. On Dragonstone, Rhaenyra trained for rule. Two mothers, two futures, bound by a broken friendship and a crown that promised only war. There were moments, rare, fleeting, when their eyes softened, and the memory of two young girls flickered between them. But the realm no longer saw them as friends. It saw them as symbols, as rivals, as queens in waiting. And symbols cannot love. They can only collide. The war did not begin with swords. It began with a sigh. King Viserys, the first Targaryen, the peacemaker, the gentle king, spent his final years fading like a candle in an empty hall. His body weakened, bones hollow as old parchment. But his mind clung fiercely to one truth. Rhaenyra was his heir. Each day he repeated it. Each council heard it. Every lord swore to it. But time is a thief, and with each breath that left his body, the realm drifted closer to chaos. The court grew silent around him, movements soft as shadows. Maesters whispered. The Hightowers watched. Alicent stood by his side, torn between duty and fear, praying to the Seven that his end would be peaceful. In his final days, the king confused past and present. his wife for his daughter, his dreams for prophecy. His words twisted like smoke, half-truths drifting into minds ready to weaponize them. One night, as the dying fire spilled gold across his bed, Viserys opened his eyes to the queen beside him. His voice was a whisper, fragile as the last leaf of autumn. Aegon, the prince that was promised. Alicent froze. She heard not prophecy, but an anointing. Her son's name spoken in the king's final breath. She took his hand, tears falling onto his fading skin. "I understand, my king," she whispered. A misunderstanding that would burn kingdoms. Moments later, Viserys exhaled one last trembling sigh. The windows rattled. Somewhere deep in the Red Keep, a dragon roared, as if sensing the end of an age. The candles flickered out, and with the king's last breath, the peace he held together with trembling hands shattered into dust. In the silence of that night, as the moon drifted behind clouds, the realm stood on the edge of a blade, ready to fall into flame. The king was dead, and before the dawn could break over King's Landing, a queen awakened with a single thought. Aegon must take the throne. The Red Keep, once quiet in mourning, filled with whispers sharper than daggers. Alicent Hightower gathered her allies, each one chosen carefully, each one carrying ambition in their veins. In the council chamber, heavy curtains shut out the morning light. Torches flickered. Shadows grew long. This secret gathering would be known forever as the Green Council. At the head of the table stood Otto Hightower, Hand of the King, a man who had waited a lifetime for this moment of silent power. The king's final wish, he declared, was for Aegon to rule. Some eyes widened. Some hearts hesitated. But ambition is a fire that spreads quickly. Lords and knights weighed their oaths to Rhaenyra against the promise of reward, against the fear of standing alone, against the certainty that a woman's rule would tear the realm apart. And one by one, they nodded. The queen must never know, Otto warned, though Alicent already understood the dark path she had stepped onto. Outside the chamber, the guards were changed. Those loyal to Rhaenyra disappeared into cells, or were found with throats slit before sunrise. Ravens were halted. Doors were locked. No one was allowed to leave the city. Meanwhile, Aegon, the boy at the center of the storm, was nowhere to be found. Not ready, not willing, not sober. But fate does not wait for those who run from it. The city searched for him, while the Green Council prepared a coronation built on silence, lies, and the trembling breath of a dying king. In the quiet of her chamber, Alicent placed a hand over her heart, whispering to the gods, "Forgive me, for I do what I must to protect my children." But far away on Dragonstone, a princess, the true heir, slept, unaware that her throne was being stolen before sunrise. While King's Landing drowned in secrets, Dragonstone slept beneath storm and shadow. Rhaenyra Targaryen, heir of the Iron Throne, walked the halls, unaware that her father was dead and her crown stolen before dawn. She felt only a strange chill, a weight in the air, as if the sea itself held its breath. On that same morning, her belly tightened with pain. Life and death moving inside her in ways she did not yet understand. The storm arrived first. Black clouds swallowed the sky, thunder echoing through the ancient stones of Dragonstone. Then came a ship, sails dark as crow's wings, carrying a single messenger with a face carved by dread. Princess Rhaenys. She had escaped King's Landing with the truth burning in her eyes. "Your father is dead," Rhaenyra gasped, her hand gripping the stone pillar beside her. "And the Greens. They have crowned Aegon." The room fell silent. Daemon stepped forward, rage rising in him like flame through dry wood. "They stole your birthright," he growled. "We must answer with fire." But Rhaenyra, breathing hard, her body trembling with contraction and grief, raised a shaking hand. "No," she whispered, "not yet." She felt her father's spirit, thin and fading, calling her to patience, to wisdom. That night, the storm grew stronger. Inside her chamber, Rhaenyra fought for life, while the realm prepared for death. Daemon paced in the war room, whispering to Caraxes, feeding the dragon's hunger with his own. But Rhaenyra's cries cut through the stone walls like the sound of a world breaking. Hours passed, then silence. She emerged pale, hollow-eyed, holding a tiny, lifeless body. The daughter who never lived to see the crown stolen from her mother. Rhaenyra stood on the cliffs of Dragonstone, the wind tearing at her hair, the storm drenching her in salt and rain. And she whispered through clenched teeth, "I will not let them take everything." In that moment, the realm gained its second queen, the Black Queen. Born of grief, forged by betrayal, and ready, at last, to claim the throne that was hers by fire and blood. The storm had passed. The Dragonstone had changed. In the great hall, carved from black volcanic rock, torches flickered against dragon-shaped shadows. Rhaenyra entered slowly, face pale with grief, back straight with resolve. She did not wear jewels. No gold, no rubies, no crown. Only black. The color of mourning, the color of war. Daemon stood at her side, sword at his hip, eyes burning like the heart of a forge. Behind them, dragons roared from their lairs, restless, sensing the tension in their riders' blood. The lords of Dragonstone gathered, Celtigar, Valerion, Staunton, each one kneeling as she approached. Princess Rhaenys stepped forward, her voice steady, her gaze solemn. "The Greens have crowned their usurper," she said. "Let us crown our true queen." A hush fell over the hall. Daemon drew his blade, not in threat, but in oath. He knelt before her, lowering his head. "Rhaenyra Targaryen," he declared, voice echoing off the stone walls. "Rightful heir of the Cerys I, Queen of the Andals, the Rhaenyra, and the First Men, Protector of the realm." His words were a spark and dry tinder. One by one, every lord in the hall knelt, pledging swords, ships, and blood. Even the dragons outside answered with a thunderous cry, as if acknowledging their new sovereign. Daemon lifted a simple circlet of dark Valyrian steel, the crown once worn by King Jaehaerys the Wise, heirloom of the purest Targaryen line. He placed it gently upon her head. The hall erupted in a single, unified voice. "All hail Rhaenyra, Queen of the Seven Kingdoms." Rhaenyra closed her eyes, feeling the weight of a crown forged from legacy and betrayal. When she opened them again, the softness was gone. Her gaze was cold as obsidian, her voice steady as dragon flame. "The realm will remember this day," she said. "For today, the true line rises again." And, with the crown upon her brow and dragons awakening in the skies above, the dance began to move to its first deadly step. The storm had passed. The dragonstone had changed. In the great hall, carved from black volcanic rock, torches flickered against dragon-shaped shadows. Rhaenyra entered slowly, face pale with grief, back straight with resolve. She did not wear jewels. No gold, no rubies, no crown. Only black. The color of mourning, the color of war. Daemon stood at her side, sword at his hip, eyes burning like the heart of a forge. Behind them, dragons roared from their lairs, restless, sensing the tension in their riders' blood. The lords of Dragonstone gathered: Celtigar, Valerion, Staunton, each one kneeling as she approached. Princess Rhaenys stepped forward, her voice steady, her gaze solemn. "The Greens have crowned their usurper," she said. "Let us crown our true queen." A hush fell over the hall. Daemon drew his blade, not in threat, but in oath. He knelt before her, lowering his head. "Rhaenyra Targaryen," he declared, voice echoing off the stone walls. "Rightful heir of the Cerys I, Queen of the Andals, the Rhaenyra, and the First Men, Protector of the realm." His words were a spark and dry tinder. One by one, every lord in the hall knelt, pledging swords, ships, and blood. Even the dragons outside answered with a thunderous cry, as if acknowledging their new sovereign. Daemon lifted a simple circlet of dark Valyrian steel, the crown once worn by King Jaehaerys the Wise, heirloom of the purest Targaryen line. He placed it gently upon her head. The hall erupted in a single, unified voice. "All hail Rhaenyra, Queen of the Seven Kingdoms." Rhaenyra closed her eyes, feeling the weight of a crown forged from legacy and betrayal. When she opened them again, the softness was gone. Her gaze was cold as obsidian, her voice steady as dragon flame. "The realm will remember this day," she said, "for today the true line rises again." And, with the crown upon her brow and dragons awakening in the skies above, the dance began to move to its first deadly step. Night fell over Dragonstone, wrapping the island in a cloak of fog and sea salt wind. Inside the courtyard, two young princes prepared for the most dangerous journey of their lives. Jacaerys Valerian, eldest son of Rhaenyra, proud, steady, carrying the weight of his mother's hopes. Lucerys Valerian, younger, gentle-hearted, brave, but not built for war. Their dragons waited in the shadows, golden eyes glowing in the dark. Vermax for Jace, Arax for Luke. Rhaenyra approached them slowly, the torchlight flickering across her face. A face torn between duty and fear. "You are my messengers," she whispered, brushing Jace's cheek with trembling fingers. "Not my soldiers." Jace nodded, his jaw tight with determination. Rhaenyra turned to Luke, kneeling to meet his wide, uncertain eyes. "House Baratheon," she said gently, "owes us loyalty. They will receive you kindly." She tried to sound certain, but the wind stole her breath, carrying her doubt into the night sky. Daemon stood behind her, hand resting on dark sister, face unreadable. His sons, riding into storms, reminded him of every prophecy carved in Dragonstone walls, every warning whispered by ancient blood. "Remember your duty," he said. His voice was steel, his heart was trembling. The dragons lowered their massive heads, expelling hot breath that curled around the boys like smoke from a sacred ritual. Jace mounted Vermax with practiced ease, gripping the saddle as the dragon spread its bronze wings. Luke hesitated, staring at Arax. Smaller, younger, nervous as his rider. "He will protect you," Rhaenyra whispered. "As I once protected you." Luke swallowed, nodding, touching Arax's neck. A spark of warmth passed between them. Above, clouds swirled like gathering omens. Dragons leapt into the sky, one beating the air with strong, confident wings, the other fluttering lightly against the wind. Jace turned west, toward the Eyrie and Winterfell. A long journey. Alliances old as oaths. Luke turned south, toward Storm's End. A shorter path, but far more perilous. For in the storm clouds beyond the horizon, Vhagar waited. The ancient dragon, older than empires, larger than castles. And upon her back rode the one boy Luke feared most, Aemond Targaryen. The winds howled as the princes vanished into the night. Two sparks of light, carrying hope into a world filling with shadow. Storm's End had never lived up to its name more than on the night Lucerys Valerian arrived. The sky was a battlefield, lightning tearing white scars through the dark. rain falling in sheets so heavy it felt like the gods were trying to drown the world. Erex struggled against the wind, wings buffeted by the storm's furious breath. Luke clung to the saddle, heart pounding, whispering soft Valyrian words to calm his frightened dragon. Then he saw it, a shadow in the clouds, larger than mountains, older than time. Vhagar. Her wings did not flap. She glided through the storm like a ghost carved from thunder. Aemond Targaryen waited for Luke long before the boy's boots touched the wet stones of Storm's End. Inside the great hall, torches flickered violently against the wind as Luke stood before Lord Boros Baratheon. The man was large, voice booming louder than the storm outside. "You come with words," he barked, "but Aemond comes with a marriage pact." Aemond smirked, his sapphire eye gleaming like a shard of cruel ice. "Hello, nephew," he whispered. Luke swallowed hard. Rhaenyra had promised him that Storm's End would be safe. But nothing in the hall felt safe. Not the thunder, not the stairs, not the dragon waiting outside in the rain. "I am only a messenger," Luke said, voice steady despite the terror biting at him. But Aemond stepped forward, removing the patch from his false eye. The sapphire shone bright, cold, unnatural, burning with hatred. "You owe me an eye," he said softly. Lightning struck so close the hall shook. Lord Boros slammed his fist on the table. "No bloodshed in my hall," he roared. Luke bowed, heart racing, and fled into the storm. Erex cried nervously, wings slick with rain. Luke mounted quickly. The dragon leapt into the sky, just as another shadow rose behind him. Vhagar, a titan of wings and teeth, chasing a spark of white flame through a nightmare of thunder. The storm swallowed them both. Lightning flashed. One small dragon, one ancient beast. Luke looked back once and saw Aemon's face twisted between triumph and something like regret. Erex dove through a narrow canyon of cloud, screeching desperately. But Vhagar was a storm herself. Her roar split the sky. Her jaws closed around rain, wind, and the boy who never wanted war. A flash of fire, a scream swallowed by thunder. And then the sky went quiet. When the storm cleared, only pieces of broken wing drifted gently down onto the Black Sea below. Aemond hovered above the waves, rain washing his face clean. But no storm could wash away what he had done. The dance had begun, and its first step was death. You, Dragonstone was quiet. Too quiet. The storm that swallowed Lucerys had vanished, but its shadow stretched all the way to the black halls of the castle. Rhaenyra stood alone on the cliffs, overlooking the narrow sea. The waves crashed below her feet, cold spray rising like ghostly fingers. She felt it before she heard it. The roar, not thunder, not wind, the sound of a dragon crying. A cry of pain so deep it tore the sky open. Eric's was gone, and a mother knows when her child does not return. Daemon was the first to bring word. His boots were wet with seawater, his face pale with the cold weight of truth. He said nothing at first. He simply bowed his head. Rhaenyra's breath stopped. Her trembling fingers clutched the edge of the stone railing, as if the world were tilting beneath her feet. "Luke," she whispered, the name escaping her like a broken prayer. The wind carried nothing back. When Daemon finally spoke, his voice was a blade dipped in grief. Vhagar was seen over Storm's End. Rhaenyra closed her eyes, tears sliding down her cheeks silently. A mother should not outlive her child. A queen should not bury her heir. A Targaryen should not be pushed past the edge of fire. When she turned, her face was no longer the face of a grieving mother. It was the face of war. "They took my son," she said, voice hollow, trembling with something deeper than sorrow. Daemon stepped closer, his hand brushing the hilt of Dark Sister. "Say the word," he murmured, "and we will make the realm burn." Rhaenyra said nothing. She walked into the war room, each step echoing like a heartbeat. Lords and knights rose to greet her, their eyes widening when they saw her expression. Pale, empty, carved from grief and iron. She approached the painted table. The fire beneath it flickered, lighting Westeros in glowing veins of red. Her hand hovered over the riverlands, then drifted slowly down to King's Landing. Daemon watched her carefully. She did not weep. She did not scream. She simply whispered, "I will answer their fire." With fire, the council bowed their heads. In that moment, grief became rage. The Black Queen had changed, and the realm would never be the same again. Vengeance is a fire that eats everything it touches. And after Lucerys fell from the sky, after the sea swallowed her son, Rhaenyra Targaryen lit her first true flame. Daemon knew what she could not say aloud. "An eye for an eye," he whispered. "A son for a son." So he went alone, cloaked in black, crossing the narrow sea to King's Landing, where shadows sleep beneath the red keep, and men sell their souls for a handful of gold. There, under the city, in the twisting tunnels built by Maegor the Cruel, Daemon found two figures. Blood, a butcher, massive, strong, hands stained with more deaths than he could count. Cheese, a rat catcher, thin, clever, able to move through the castle like smoke. "You know the ways," Daemon murmured. "You know the guards, the routines, the secrets." Cheese grinned, a smile too wide, too eager. Blood cracked his knuckles. "Find the prince," Daemon said, voice trembling with cold fire. "Make the Greens feel what we feel." He did not say the name. He did not need to. That night, under a sliver moon, the two assassins slipped through forgotten drains and hidden passages. The Red Keep was quiet, the corridors dim, guards half asleep, blood and cheese moved like shadows. One heavy as a hammer, the other silent as dust. They found Queen Alicent first, passing her chamber as she prayed for peace in a world she had helped burn. But she was not the target. Down the hall, in a warm room lit by soft golden lamps, Helaena Targaryen sat with her children, twin boys, and a little daughter asleep in her arms. Helaena looked up as the assassins slipped inside. Her breath caught. Her hands trembled. "Please," she whispered, "don't hurt them." Blood closed the door. Cheese smiled. "Which one is the prince?" he asked softly. Helena's lips quivered. "Please, take me instead." But the dance had no mercy left. "Which one?" Cheese repeated, voice dripping like poison. "Is the son of Aegon, the usurper." Helaena looked at her daughters, then at her sons. Tears blurred her vision. A trembling finger rose, pointing to the youngest boy. She did not scream when blood dragged the child away. She could not. Her voice was gone, stolen by terror. It was quick, too quick. When it was done, Helaena fell to her knees, clutching the lifeless body of the child she had tried so desperately to protect. The assassins vanished back into the tunnels, leaving behind only blood and a mother's broken cry echoing through the stone halls. And far away on Dragonstone, when Daemon received word, he closed his eyes. He whispered nothing. He felt nothing. Vengeance has no warmth. The dance had taken its next step, and it was dipped in children's blood. Blood had been spilled. Innocent blood. And once the first spark falls, a forest cannot help but burn. The crown lands, the green fields, quiet villages, and peaceful river roads surrounding King's Landing became the first battleground of the dance. It began with fire. Daemon, riding Caraxes, descended upon the riverlands like a storm of red lightning. Village after village bent the knee to Rhaenyra, or burned. The Greens retaliated fast. Aegon's forces, led by Sir Criston Cole, the Kingmaker, cold as iron, relentless as a blade, marched south with the gold cloaks to restore order. Order quickly became massacre. The roads filled with bodies. Fields turned black. Houses that had stood for 100 years were now nothing but ash. And above it all, dragons took flight. Sea smoke, Syrax, Caraxes, Vermithor, Sunfire, giants of flame and fury, carving fire into the sky like wounds that would never heal. The people of the Crownlands fled in terror, mothers carrying children, men dragging carts filled with what little survived the flames. Every night, the horizon glowed red, not from sunset, but from towns burning miles away. Rhaenyra did not order the slaughter, but she did not stop it. War is a beast that grows hungrier with every drop of blood. Daemon, atop Caraxes, hunted green loyal knights along the riverbanks. His smile was thin, cold, almost serene as he watched the world burn. At Harrenhal, the cursed, ruined castle, Daemon took command of the Riverlands. Dragons roared from its broken towers, echoing through empty halls haunted by old fire. And from this throne of ash, the rogue prince sent ravens, bearing a message that chilled the realm. The Riverlands rise for the Black Queen. This was no longer a dispute, no longer a political struggle. The dance had become a wildfire, a storm of wings and smoke, spreading across forests, farmlands, and quiet homes that had never asked to be part of a queen's war. Innocents died. Kingsmen died. Rivermen died. And neither queen, dressed in green or in black, could stop the flames they had both unleashed. The first great clash of the dance did not happen in a throne room, nor on the painted table of Dragonstone, but at Rook's Rest, a strong castle on a lonely hill, loyal to Rhaenyra, standing like a stubborn stone in the path of the green armies. Sir Criston Cole, the Kingmaker, commander of Aegon's forces, marched upon it with cold focus. "Draw them out," he ordered. "Let the blacks bring their dragons." For this battle, he had a trap woven from fire and deceit, and the blacks fell for it. When word reached Dragonstone that Cole besieged Rook's Rest, Rhaenys Targaryen, the queen who never was, mounted her ancient dragon, Meleys. Her red scales shimmered like rubies in the sun. Together, they soared into the sky, determined to save their allies. But below, Criston Cole smiled. He was waiting not for Rhaenys, but for the dragons behind her. When Meleys descended upon the battlefield, she unleashed a river of flame that devoured siege towers and sent soldiers fleeing in terror. Rhaenys felt victory rise in her chest until the sky darkened. A shadow emerged, wings vast as storm clouds, teeth like falling towers. Vhagar. Aemond Targaryen rode her, his single sapphire eye glowing like cold fire. Rhaenys steadied her breath. Meleys roared, ancient and proud, refusing to yield. The two colossal dragons circled, the sky trembling beneath their massive wings. Then, another shape, golden, smaller, but swift. Sunfire, with King Aegon II himself upon his back. The trap was sprung. 3 dragons against 1. Meleys rose higher, flames bursting from her jaws in a violent arc that singed Sunfire's wings and sent Aegon reeling in his saddle. But Vhagar was older than every kingdom in Westeros. She dove with a roar that shook the bones of the earth. Her jaws closed on Meleys' neck with a crack that tore the sky apart. Rhaenys held on, breath ragged, refusing to scream, refusing to fall. Dracarys, Meleys answered with a final blaze, engulfing Sunfire and sending the golden dragons spiraling downward. Aegon hanging half-conscious from the saddle. But the end had come. With a final roar, Vhagar ripped through Meleese's throat. The Red Queen fell, wings limp, fire dying in her throat. Rhaenys did not cry out. She met the wind head-on, eyes wide open, as the world rushed up to greet her. The queen who never was died as she lived, with dignity, with courage, upon the back of her dragon. When her body hit the ground, even Criston Cole lowered his head. He knew the dance of the dragons had truly begun. War had scorched the Crownlands, but Rhaenyra's fury was a fire the world had not yet seen. The death of Rhaenys, the fall of Meleese, cut deeper than any blade, and in that wound, a terrible resolve took root. King's Landing would fall, not by siege, not by negotiation, but by fire and flight. The ancient right of House Targaryen. Rhaenyra mounted Syrax, her golden dragon shimmering like a living sun, rising behind black storm clouds. Daemon took to the sky on Caraxes, the blood worms screaming a sound that tore through the clouds like a ripping veil. Behind them soared dragons great and small. Sea Smoke, Tyraxes, Moondancer, Vermax, Vermithor. The skies above the capital darkened with wings and shadows. The city had not seen dragons like this since the days of Aegon the Conqueror. As they approached the walls, the people screamed, pointing upward with shaking hands. "The Black Queen is here! The dragons! The dragons!" Bell towers erupted into frantic sound, warning a city that had no hope of escape. Aegon was gone, broken from Rook's Rest, hidden in his chambers, his crown slipping from his brow. The Greens were in chaos. Criston Cole tried to rally the Gold Cloaks, but half of them refused. A city can kneel only once, and many had pledged to Rhaenyra long before this day. The gates were opened, not by force, but by fear. Daemon landed first. Caraxes roared, sending soldiers fleeing down the cobbled streets. Syrax descended in a blaze of gold, her wings scattering dust and broken banners. Rhaenyra stepped down in silence. The people watched her with a mixture of awe and terror. Their new queen, crowned in black and flame, hair whipping in the burning wind. She did not lift her sword. She did not lift her sword. She did not shout. "Bring me the throne," she said softly. Inside the Red Keep, Alicent trembled, her hands clasped tight, waiting for the judgment she feared would be her death. Otto Hightower attempted to escape through a side gate, but Daemon found him. "You built this war," Daemon whispered, dark sister glinting in the torchlight. "Now die inside it." With one smooth stroke, the hand of the king fell. Blood spilled across the stones like a prophecy fulfilled. Meanwhile, Rhaenyra entered the throne room. The hall was silent, lit only by shards of daylight piercing through shattered windows. The Iron Throne stood before her, cold, sharp, waiting. She walked toward it slowly, each step echoing with the weight of decades. When she reached the base of the throne, she paused. Her father had dreamed this moment for her. Her mother had died for it. Her sons had bled for it. She placed one hand on the cold metal. Firelight glittered across her eyes, and she whispered, "The realm is mine." Syrax roared triumphantly outside, flames shooting into the sky. King's Landing had fallen, and the Black Queen had claimed her throne. King's Landing belonged to Rhaenyra, but victory came with a curse. A city conquered in fire is a city that bleeds. The Greens were not finished. They were wounded. But a wounded beast is often the most dangerous. Far away, recovering from his injuries, Aegon the Second Targaryen rose once more, Sunfire, though broken and scarred, still lived. His golden scales tarnished, his wings torn, but his fire unextinguished. He and Aemond rode out, fueled by hatred deeper than blood, gathering loyalists in the Reach and Stormlands. The war was not ending. It was beginning again. Rhaenyra's rule in King's Landing crumbled faster than she imagined. The people starved. Gold cloaks rebelled. Murmurs spread. She is no queen. She is a dragon in a dress. And Rhaenyra, overwhelmed by death, betrayal, and the endless weight of grief, felt the throne turning cold beneath her. Dragons began to die. First, Vermex, falling into the sea as Jace screamed his name. Then Moondancer, cut down in a burst of flame by Sunfire. The skies of Westeros, once filled with wings and fire, became quiet. Too quiet. Aemond hunted the blacks like shadows. Vhagar roaring across the riverlands with fury unmatched since the doom of Valyria. And at last, the dragons turned on each other in one final battle, the battle above the God's Eye. Daemon Targaryen, riding Caraxes through blood-red clouds, confronted Aemond atop the monstrous Vhagar. No armies, no banners, only two riders, two brothers in fire, two destinies intertwined. Caraxes struck first, coiling around Vhagar's ancient neck like a serpent aflame. Vhagar tore through the bloodworm's flesh with teeth older than kingdoms. The sky rained fire. Wings shredded. Blood turned to steam. And in one final desperate moment, Daemon leapt from his saddle and plunged Dark Sister into Aemon's skull. The dragons fell, locked together, screaming through the storm, crashing into the waters of the God's Eye. Neither rider surfaced. The two greatest dragons of their age sank beneath the lake, like dying stars, with Daemon dead, Caraxes gone, and Vhagar drowned. age of dragons bled out into the water. Rhaenyra, broken and hunted, fled King's Landing with her last son, little Aegon the younger. But the Greens found her. Aegon II took her at Dragonstone, standing where she once stood as heir. He did not give her mercy. Sunfire, battered but alive, opened his ruined jaws. The fire that followed was pale and weak, but enough. Rhaenyra Targaryen, the Black Queen, died, screaming as her last dragon devoured her. The dance of the dragons ended in ash, and dragons, once rulers of the sky, became rare as myths, until none remained but bones and memories. The dance of the dragons began with whispers and ended in ashes, a war born from pride, from grief, from a broken friendship that once belonged to two innocent girls walking the gardens of the Red Keep. Dragons fill the sky, shaking the world with fire and wings, and one by one they fell. Riders died with their beasts, swallowed by storm, drowned in lakes, torn from the sky, or devoured by the very creatures they had called children. Rhaenyra Targaryen, the Black Queen, claimed her throne with pain and lost it with fire. Aegon II, broken king, ruled a realm drowning in sorrow until poison found him and ended his misery. And the realm they fought to control was left scarred, empty, forever changed. The dragons, the proud symbols of Targaryen might, became fewer with every passing year, until only their bones remained, lining the halls of a silent Red Keep. The sky grew quiet. The world grew colder, and the age of fire that shaped kingdoms slipped slowly into legend. But history remembers. It remembers the roar of Vhagar echoing across a storm, the courage of Rhaenys diving into a battle she knew she would lose, the scream of young Lucerys swallowed by thunder, the final leap of Daemon against the sapphire eye of Aemond, and the last tragic breath of the Black Queen. These memories linger like embers refusing to die. For though the dragons are gone, their shadows still fall across the pages of history. And when the wind blows over the God's Eye, or through the broken towers of Dragonstone, some swear they can still hear it, the soft whisper of wings long vanished, a reminder of a time when fire ruled the sky, and of a dance that burned the world so deeply it would never forget.